What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. It is Thursday, March 27th, and we made it through the round of 64. We got through the round of 32, and we are here to the Sweet 16. It is taking off tonight. We have 4 of the 8 games jumping off here tonight. We're going to go over all 4 of those games here in this video. But before we do, if you could smash that like button for me and hit subscribe, let's not waste any time, man. Let's dive right on into it. BYU taking on Alabama in the first game of the night. We got Alabama coming in as 5.5-point favorites. The total is sitting at 175.5. And I can't lie, I'm kind of surprised that this is the first game of the Sweet 16. There's a lot of great matchups on the slate, right? A lot of great matchups, but I think this is going to be the most entertaining, personally. Just from a fan standpoint, from watching two high-flying offenses, this is going to be a fun game. The committee, they knew what they were doing, sticking these two in the same region, right? With the potential Sweet 16 matchup like we got here, they knew what they were doing, man, and boy, I'm glad they did. Like I said, I think this is going to be the most entertaining game of the weekend, or at least of these 2 days here of the Sweet 16 here on Thursday, Friday. But anyways, let's dive into it, guys. Both of these teams are top 5 for adjusted offensive efficiency. Like I said, powerhouses on the offensive end, right? And let's just look at them on the Ken Palms as well. Overall, we can see Alabama sitting at 6th, BYU sitting at 24th. Two very, very good teams coming into this one. Alabama 4th offensively in the Ken Palms, BYU 9th. Defensively, Alabama sitting at 29th, BYU 71st. Now, here's where there is a big disparity, right? BYU plays at the 178th fastest pace for adjusted tempo, right? Bama sitting at 1st in that regard. By far the fastest team in the nation. They play an NBA-style offense, and they like to run and gun. I mean, that's how they got the better of St. Mary's at the end of the day, man. They wore that team down. St. Mary's likes to play a 7-man rotation. Bama's rolling out 10 guys. So, they just kind of kept throwing fresh bodies at St. Mary's. There wasn't much that St. Mary's could do about that. The thing is, they're not going to have Alabama. They're not going to have that advantage here going up against BYU. BYU is also rolling 10 guys out. At times, they're rolling 11, 12. They go deep. And they really have been. They've been running those 11, 12-man lineups really since about midway through the season in Coach Young's first season here with BYU. The Cougars are also a much better shooting team than Alabama just faced in the Gales, right? The Cougars are 20th in the nation in three-point rate. They're 26th in three-point shooting percentage, shooting at 37%. Man, when they're hitting their shots, and so far in this tourney, they've done just that, right? And wins over VCU, who the majority of the world was on, including myself, and they did so against Wisconsin as well. They've done just that. They've been able to shoot the lights out. And in turn, that's opening up the lanes, right, for easy layups, easy dunks. They're taking full advantage of the opportunities that they're presenting themselves with their shooting. Like I mentioned, this is Coach Young, Kevin Young of BYU. It's his first season with the Cougars, and he's turned them into they're the story of the tournament so far. He was given a roster, and he made the best of it, and that's exactly what he's done. He's made the best of his situation. Look, he's transformed a role player in Richie Saunders into their leading scorer. A lot has been made of the Cougar shot quality and the efficiency of their offense, and I think we see that reign true yet again here against the Crimson Tide. Bama does have the better defense. They're sitting just outside of the top 25 as compared to BYU at 54 in terms of adjusted defensive efficiency. But they have struggled on the offensive glass so far throughout these first 2 rounds, giving up 26 offensive boards alone in just those 2 games. Both teams have been decent against the number this year. BYU has been slightly better on the number this year, covering in 22 of the 35 games that they played. Alabama has covered in 20 of the 35 games that they have played. But looking at it from a favorite and dog perspective, Alabama as faves, 14-13 against the spread. BYU has covered in 5 of the 8 games that they have been made dogs. And then looking at these 2 in non-conference play, Bama sitting at 7-8 against the spread, BYU 8-5. Go ahead and pop over here to Outlier, guys. Let's check out the last 10 games BYU on the spread. We can see them covering this 5.5 at a 90% rate. Alabama just 50%, right? And we can push that back further. Let's see how consistent that is. Still at a 50% rate for Alabama in their last 20 games, covering just 5.5. BYU, on the other hand, has covered that number at an 85% rate. Let's look at this insight as well. We can see the Cougars are 10-2 against the spread in their last 12 games. So I like our chances here. I am leaning BYU overall. I like them with the points here. I'm tempted to take them on the money line, but I definitely like them with the points, and I could definitely see that finding its way into the final plays, which will be down in the pinned comment, guys. If you want to check that out, there will be a link there that's going to send you over to the Guy Boston Sports website. All right, next up, we are looking at the Maryland Terps taking on the Florida Gators. We have the Gators sitting at 6.5-point favorites in this one. Total is sitting at 156.5. Now, Maryland won a lot of people over with that last game, man, right? And that exciting win over Colorado State that ended with that freshman sensation and future NBA lotto pick, Derek Queen, hitting a game winner at the buzzer. The only buzzer beater we've had so far in the tournament. And boy, it was a beauty, right? My man went to the left, fading away off the glass. Wow. Just wow, right? This is why we watch March Madness, man. That was beautiful. Beautiful. And like I said, Maryland won a lot of people over in that one. I think that they've kind of been slept on coming into this tournament and throughout this tournament so far. They've been on a roll, though, winners of 8 of their last 10, and those 2 defeats came at a total of just 4 points combined at the hands of Michigan by 1 and then Michigan State by just 3. Now, here's an interesting trend, guys. Since 2010, teams that win in their prior NCAA tourney game but are beaten on the spread by 7 or more points, they've bounced back pretty nicely in the next game, going 30-8 straight up. They've also gone 25-12-1 to the number in that time. That's a 67% hit rate. Florida fits that bill, right? They just beat UConn by 2 points. They failed to cover as 9-point favorites in that one. UConn held control of that game for the majority of that game, right? Florida had to, make a push in the second half before they were able to take back control of that one and win that game. It was, I think they had a 5-point lead. Yeah, dude hit a 3 like right there at the buzzer to make the score look a little bit closer. They were able to pull away in that one. It wasn't as close as a 2-point ending would make it seem. But nonetheless, failing to cover that 9 points, you could take that 3 out of the picture and they still failed to cover that 9 points. So that trend that we just went over would still be relevant here. And Florida's been a great team to the number this year, 26-10. Maryland just 18-16 with 1 push in there. And then looking at them as favorites, Florida's 23-8, 8-2 at a neutral site, and 10-5 against the spread when playing outside of their conference. Maryland is 4-2 as a dog, but just 7-6 outside of their conference and 3-3 at a neutral site. So, these two, they're very good teams, but Florida is still just a step above Maryland, no matter how well they've played, no matter how many hearts they won over in the last round, right? Look at the Ken Palms. That'll be a good indicator right there. We see Maryland sitting at 10th overall, Florida 3rd, right? Maryland's offense sitting at 22nd, Florida's 2nd. Maryland's defense 6th, Florida's defense 11th. So Maryland does have the one up there, but then they play at the same pace, right? 64th in adjusted tempo for Maryland, 61st for Florida. But while we just talked about Maryland's defense, Florida is, they're top 15 for adjusted defensive efficiency. They're also top 5 when it comes to adjusted offensive efficiency. And that's where I think that they have Maryland beat here is like they do have a solid defense as well. They have that much better of an offense. And the Gators, man, they've not only been the better team on the season, but they've done so against a tougher competition as well. They're ranking 23rd for strength of schedule net rating in the Ken Palms as compared to 51st for Maryland. Let's pop over here to Outlier real quick, and there's something I want to take a look at, guys, and it's kind of weird, man. Look at this line movement, or really the lack thereof, right? We can see the line opened up at 4.5. That was at 9:28 p.m. 10 minutes later, it quickly jumps up 2 points to -6.5, right? And all the money comes in on that. And then we see it drop down to 5.5, and all the money's still coming in on it. And then we're back up to 6.5, and all the money's still coming in on the Florida side. And then we see more reverse line movement, back down to 5.5, and all the money's still coming in on Florida, right? And it's just kind of stayed this way. 90% of the money still. Now we're in the high 80s, mid 80s. Majority of this money is rolling in still on Florida, and we are still chilling at this 6.5-point range. That seems really fishy to me. That seems really strange. And that is the biggest reason why I will probably just stay off of this game, right? Because I'm leaning Florida. Everything is telling me that Florida wins this one and probably wins this one by double digits. But this line movement, or lack thereof, like I said, has me very hesitant. And I'll probably just go ahead and back off this one. We'll see, man. Like I said, go ahead and check that pinned comment, and we'll see if we end up playing anything on this one or not. All right, next up, we have Arizona taking on Duke. We've seen these two, we've seen them face off in the tournament before. We've seen them face off for a national championship in the past, right? But we will see them here in the Sweet 16. Duke is 9.5-point favorites for this one. We have a total sitting at 153.5. Now, Duke has won 13 in a row now. They've honestly dominated in the process, man. They've outscored opponents by a total of 67 points through the first 2 games. 11 of these 13 wins in a row, they've also been by double digits as well. So Duke is just rolling, man. The Blue Devils have also covered in 8 of their last 10. Arizona has won 6 of their last 10 straight up. They've only covered in 4 of their last 10. And there's been 35 games now that Duke's been made favorites. They have covered in 23 of those. Arizona 4-5 as a dog so far. Duke handled Arizona with ease at the beginning of the year, man. Back in late November, they won by 14, 69-55. And honestly, man, Duke just out-hustled Arizona in that one on the offensive glass, and then they won all the 50-50 battles for loose balls. They just played with more effort overall and frustrated Arizona with their size and their athleticism. And while Duke has been busy dominating, throughout much of the regular season and then through these first 2 rounds, as mentioned, we saw Arizona wax Akron in round 1, but then we saw them have to come from behind to pull out a close 4-point victory over Oregon. So definitely some struggles there for Arizona getting here. And then just looking at the Ken Palms, man, we can see the disparity between these 2 teams and just how great Duke is, right? For the Ken Palms, Arizona overall sitting at 13th offensively and 28th defensively. Duke, first overall, first offensively, 4th defensively. Phenomenal, right? Great team. And I think that Arizona has their hands full in this one. I can see why the spread is sitting as large as it is. Let's pop over here to Outlier real quick. Let's take a look at the Duke offense against this Arizona defense. Now, here's the thing, man. Arizona, they shy away from the 3, and they try to force opponents out towards the perimeter for them to shoot 3s, right? But that could be kind of disastrous looking at this team and this, this Blue Devil team. That could be a recipe for disaster, like I said. We see Duke shooting just under 39% from 3. That is good for 9th in the nation. Arizona tied for a 141st in terms of 3-point percentage given up. They're 85th in defensive efficiency. Let's go ahead and pop over here to Outlier 2. Let's look at Arizona's defense against Duke's offense. Now, the thing is, like, Arizona themselves, offensively, they shy away from the 3-ball, right? But they like to try to force their opponents out to the perimeter, right? And they like to try to force them to play from outside. I think that might be a recipe for disaster here going up against Duke, right? This is a Duke team that shoots just under 39% from deep. That is tied for 9th in the nation. Arizona only 141st in terms of 3-point percentage allowed, giving up 33%. And now they're going up against a team that, like I said, sitting at 9th in the nation, just under 39%. I think that we see Duke have a ton of success from the outside. We can look at it, just kind of down the board here. Effective field goal percentage for Duke sitting at 6th. Arizona only 85th in the nation. A big disparity there, 57-48 for Arizona. Like, Duke's offense is just going to roll here in this one, if you ask me, man. They're 12th for field goal percentage, 16th for 2-point percentage. We've already talked about the 3-point. Arizona 51st and 58th in those categories as well. Look at the points per game. 12th overall in the nation for Duke, 83.5 points. Arizona sitting at 179th in the nation. So I like a lot of things here looking at this matchup for Duke. When we look at these two in their last 10, right? Duke at a 80% rate, covering that 9.5-point spread. Obviously, Arizona covering 9.5 pretty easily themselves. They're not getting blown out by many teams, right? But they're also not playing teams on the caliber of Duke on a regular as well. So, like I said earlier, man, Duke has hit in this 13-game winning streak. They've won 11 of those by double digits. And we can see right here that they are 9-3 against the spread in their last 12 games as a favorite as well, 75% hit rate. So this 9.5 points, man, it's a lot. It's definitely a lot for a Sweet 16 game as well, but it's not one that I would shy away from, considering the teams involved in this one, the styles of play, and how well that favors into Duke's advantage. All right, next up, last game on the evening, we have Arkansas taking on Texas Tech. Texas Tech 5.5-point favorites. The total sitting at 147.5. Man, I have had a ton of fun watching Arkansas, right? Arkansas has size, they have experience, they have this kind of magical type of feeling right now riding on their side, and I'm big on the Razorbacks right now. But Texas Tech, man, these Red Raiders are going to provide the biggest challenge that Arkansas has faced so far in this tournament. Texas Tech coming in with an adjusted offensive efficiency of 6, but Arkansas is sitting at 18th in terms of adjusted defensive efficiency. They're playing some of the best team defense I've seen throughout this tournament. You know, Calipari has been preaching and saying that they are playing as one heartbeat. Watch these guys on the defensive end, and you will see that come to fruition, man. They really, truly are just playing as one unit. It is solid team defense, and as a former Hooper, man, it's beautiful. That's what I love to see. And man, that's one thing, just kind of a side note, just about the tournament in general. I mean, we get this every year, right? But, you know, watching the NBA throughout the season, you know, there's just a lack of energy and there's a lack of effort at times, right? Throughout this tournament, man, there's been games where the offense has just been horrible, right? Been some slow, grinded out, just kind of like disgusting, nasty games, right? But the energy is still there. The energy is still there in every single one of these games. These kids play their asses off, man. And it's a beautiful thing to see. It's so much fun to watch. And I don't know, maybe this is just me getting older, but I truly appreciate that, right? The passion for the game that you just don't see on a regular anymore, man. But you really are seeing it from these kids throughout this tournament. I just wanted to touch on that real quick. But let's dive back into it, man. Texas Tech, they like to beat you up inside with JT Toppin, right? And that opens up the perimeter for them to punish you from deep. And that is where they are 21st in the nation, shooting just under 38%. But the backs, man, they've had success in this tourney, and that has started with interior defense, right? They averaged a 5th in the country, 5.7 blocks per game in the regular season, and they've swatted 13 shots through these first 2 games in the tourney. So Texas Tech, man, they beat a good Drake team coming into this one, and that was after struggling with UNC Wilmington in round 1. But you look at Arkansas, man, they held control in each of the games they played so far. A 7-point win over Kansas and then a 9-point win over St. John's. In both those games, they held the lead for the majority of the contest. Now, just looking at like the styles of play, like I said, you know, Texas Tech likes to beat you up inside and use that to open up the perimeter. But with that interior defense from Arkansas, man, I'm not sure that they're going to be able to find that same success here. They might start forcing it. They might start forcing outside shots, looking to the perimeter. And then in that case, like I said, this is a solid 5-man unit on defense at all times. It's one heartbeat, and they are playing as such, man. We look at both these teams coming into this. They've both won 7 of their last 10 games straight up, but Texas Tech's only 4-6 to the number in that time. Arkansas 7-2 with 1 push in there. We'll jump over here to Outlier again for this one here. Looking at Arkansas plus 5.5, we can see them in their last 5 games smacking that at a 100% hit rate. Texas Tech, 3 of their last 5, they have hit this number as well. But if we look at this inside here, we can see the Razorbacks are 11-4 against the spread in their last 15 games. That's a 73% hit rate. We see a lot more green over here than red, which is definitely what we want to see when we look at these numbers here. So, guys, I like this, man. I'm leaning Arkansas plus the points. I've taken Arkansas so far through these first 2 rounds, and they have done me phenomenal, man. So but I am looking at Arkansas here, like I said, plus 5.5, and we can get that at FanDuel minus 108 right now. Let's go ahead and what's the money line sitting at? It's plus 200 right now. It might be worth a sprinkle, man. I might sprinkle on that one as well. Plus 200 over there at BetMGM and Bet365. All right, guys, that is going to wrap it up for day number 1 of the Sweet 16. I hope you guys enjoyed the content today, and I hope you found it helpful and useful. And if you did, please do not forget to smash the like button down below and hit that subscribe button. And, guys, that's going to do it, man. I will see you all tomorrow. We'll recap how today's games went, how our picks went, how we did, and then we'll go over day number 2 of the Sweet 16. So I hope you guys all cash out, man, and I'll see you tomorrow.